Welcome to my budget deck channel where I try to make decks as cheap and playable as possible. So if this is something you're interested in, then why not subscribe? The new structure deck has released a few hours ago and I'm already on it. I have done some research beforehand. I've tried to prepare as much as I possibly can, and now here it is. I've played it a bit on the ladder and it isn't terrible. It's also, well, kind of what you expect out of a deck that is only made up of some normals and rares and all the cards from the structure deck basically. But it works, it's fine, it's not terrible. When we talk about only cards from the structure deck and some extra normals or rares that I've added in, there's one exception to this, and the exception of this is Blackwing Full Armor Master, because this card you will receive for free within the next 50 days. So definitely get this one. It's still free. Log in, it's a login bonus, so you can get that for free. If you watch this video after, you only got into the game after this logging bonus doesn't exist anymore, then well, it's a bit problematic. It's not like a massive issue. This deck profile still works the exact same way. You just lack one good card in the deck. It's not like this is the only boss monster you go into. You can do lots of stuff without Full Armor Master. It doesn't need to be played in the first place, but the fact that it's unaffected and the second effect of stealing monsters can come in handy from time to time. So I wanted to include it in here because it does make the deck a lot better and it is free, so not much of an issue here. But you can play this exact same list without it, and it's not going to hurt you too much. But if you play this list without it, you don't have that many boss monsters or crazy plays anyway, so it's a bit of a difficult one in the first place. Let's go on do the card by card. We have Vayu, a card that's interesting. It's not necessarily a good card. It adds one more monster on board, and there are multiple effects that can get this card into the graveyard, and sometimes you have to link it off. That's why this card is in here, because I couldn't find any other Winged Beast monster that isn't super rare or higher, so we have to make do with this one. Usually you would want to be playing Wise Tricks, Phantom Knights, and so on and so on and so on. There's loads of combos you can do, but this card is a dark monster, so at least the dark locks from some of the cards don't matter to you that much, and then you can link this card off, and then you can technically go into more stuff. Usually it doesn't matter and you don't really want to be using this, but you can in this specific variant. And yeah, because this card has a very annoying effect that this face-up card on the field cannot be used as a synchro material, and it doesn't special summon itself. So if you have it in hand, it can be very, very bad in my opinion. But yeah, it can synchro with materials from the graveyard, and the monster that you summon's effects are negated, but that doesn't matter. Use it as a stepping stone and one extra summon, especially against Chelamins. If they mill stuff, it can be coming in handy if they don't mill the Shizu cards that get rid of your stuff before you can even do something. We have one Orochi. This card is a special summonable tuner that has low attack stats, so very easy to search, and technically the second effect can come up. One card that might be a bit more controversial, but I think it's quite nice actually. It collides with the effect of Simoon, because both of these cards want you to control, well, this one no monsters and this one no cards. So if you have this and Simoon in hand, then just banish this for Simoon's effect. Not much of an issue here. And if you control no cards, you can special summon this. Can be very helpful because you want to start with this, because lots of your Blackwings can only be summoned if you have one other Blackwing monster on board, because they're like swarming, they're birds, you know, they're stick together. That's the issue, and then this kind of works around this a tiny bit. And also it is a level 2 monster. I just want to say this right here, just want to say this, it's a level 2 monster. Sprite could be a thing as well with that one. We run one Sharnga, the Waning Moon. Very interesting card. Usually possibly in the most competitive variants wouldn't be played, but here it has some applications. You can special summon it from hand, not as easily as some of the other ones, but as a level 2 tuner that you can special summon, so not too bad. And if you control a Blackwing synchro monster, as a quick effect you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it. One face-up card, not even monster, one card. Very nice. Only once per duel. Otherwise I think this card would be very, very neat in this specific variant. It is what it is. You can easily send it to the graveyard with your synchro monster though, so that's quite nice. And with that you can do some interesting combos, I want to call it, with Blackwing Twin Shadow, because you can get the level 6 out during your opponent's turn and then send this card to the graveyard, and then you have one life pop. Very nice, and also can work as an extender because you have monsters with 2000 attack in your deck, so it's not too hard to get it out. I decided to go for one Harmattan. I don't love the card, but it's not terrible, so I feel like in the end it is fairly playable, and I wanted to include it in here. Also a level 2, which can obviously change, but a special summon level 2, so the sprite engine really is begging to be included in here, I sometimes feel. We have one, well, triple Blackwing Vata, the emblem of the Wandering, we can summon this from our hand. Very nice. It's a level 2 tuner, which is very nice. But the last effect is where it matters, because during your main phase you can send this card on the field to the graveyard along with one or more tuner non-tuner Blackwing monsters from your deck, so that the total levels equals 8. Because then you can synchro summon those ones into Black Winged Dragon. Very, very neat. The thing is, it locks you into dark monsters, not even synchro monsters, just dark monsters, so that's okay, just for the extra deck as well. And then it can send you stuff to the graveyard, which is also very, very interesting, because you can either send one level 2 and one level 4 monster, or you could be sending this one to the graveyard, and this one has an effect in the graveyard as well. So that gets you stuff to the graveyard, also helps with Zephyros then, and so on and so on and so on. Sadly, you can't send this because this is a tuner, you can't send this because this is a tuner. You already get the gist of it. The Blackwing hand trap, that is a lot better than the one Cloak was before, because this one can be used as an effect veiler. It also reduces attack, and I think it does some burn damage. I'm not sure. No, I think this one just lowers attack. Very, very interesting one. You can search this very easily, and if you control a Blackwing synchro monster or one Black Winged Dragon, funny that they all have to say it, because it's not called Blackwing Dragon but Black Winged Dragon. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Then you can target one monster that negates its effects. It's a quick effect if you control a dark synchro monster. It doesn't even have to be a Blackwing monster or anything. Can just be any dark synchro monster. What comes to mind, for example, stuff like Bora Savage Dragon, that also exists. And funny enough, also level 2. Can't special summon itself. I've just felt like mentioning that one. One Gale, the Whirlwind, fairly searchable, and sometimes the halving attack stats can come up, and this can be helpful to go to some synchros, although I feel like level 3 isn't the best level when it comes to it. Blackwing Steam the Cloak, they freed it just for this extra deck, just for the structure deck. It's fine, it wasn't really much of an issue without Hulky Fibrax anyway. It's not a bad card, you can still abuse the card effect with lots of different things, but it's not as oppressive anymore. And probably didn't even have to be in the ban list in the first place, so there's that. It does a bit for this deck, but there's variants that can utilize this card a tiny bit better than this one can. You can read the effect in your own time. It's quite, well, it's not convoluted, and one of them is once per duel, but the other one isn't. So that's that. It generates you tokens and can special summon itself back. So that's nice. We run triple Blackwing Bora at the sphere, and that is because this card doesn't have you can special summon this card only once per turn clause on it. If you have 3 in hand, you can just special summon them out all at once, and that is why I decided to run this over the Chris, because if you add this card back with the effect of Shamal, then you can just use it again, and if you already summoned Chris, for example, then you couldn't do that. So I preferred the ratios a bit like this. This is the main reason for it. Obviously this card has more attack, so if you normal summon, this can come up, because then you can search, well, you couldn't with both of them, you can search this one because this has 1700. I don't think there's any card in here where the attack stat difference actually matters for searching, but correct me if I'm wrong. We have one Zephyros the lead because it's very easily sent to the graveyard, and in general just a very, very nice card. One of the cards you would usually summon off of Weistrix, if I'm not mistaken. We have the one that summons back from your banished zone. I don't run the one that summons back from the graveyard, but the one from the banished zone can come in handy, because with Simoon you banish stuff, and with some of your synchro plays you banish stuff, and there's lots of things where this comes in handy. Sadly, this only works for level 4 lower Blackwing monsters, but annoying. Also, this comes in more handy if you play things like Allure of Darkness for consistency, since Pot of Prosperity is only at 1 here. You might want to consider playing stuff like Allure. I'm not 100% sure how that would be when it comes to consistency, but we can't use any of them anyway in this specific deck profile, so who cares. We have triple of this one. This one searches you your, well, budget Black Feather Whirlwind in a sense. It does stuff. It's not a bad card, and you can search with it. You can technically only run one of these, but I kind of like getting stuff out of the deck, and sometimes having multiple of these isn't too bad either. I kind of like that you get this card into the graveyard, because this card has a graveyard effect, so if you don't have one in deck left, then you wouldn't get into the graveyard effect, and that can be problematic from time to time because this doesn't special summon itself, and so on and so on and so on. Plus it's a level 4 tuner, and it's a level 4 monster, which also can come in handy because we have Evil Swarm Nightmare, a dark monster that you can easily go into, because we have lots of level 4 dark monsters, just like a budget version for if, so we don't have to play the Time Thief stuff, or if you don't want to be playing Abyss Dweller, and so on and so on and so on. And this one also doesn't lock you into anything, if I'm not mistaken, but you get to take some damage. This one is the one that locks you into synchros with the effect, but only with the second effect. Only if you make the token you're locked. Other than that, it's still fine. And this card is your crazy normal summon. It does add a lot of stuff to your hand. because you can add one card that mentions Black Winged Dragon from your deck to your hand, which is lots of stuff. It's, I think this one mentions it in here, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's lots of things that added. You can add this one, you can add, I think you can add this one because this summons it. You can add the Spell Trap, for example. You can add a Black Whirlwind. I'm not actually sure. I don't think it can add this one. No, that does say Black Winged Dragon. I thought I was going to do that. I thought I did that in my testing. So this card, very nice, and also the second effect makes it able to go into a level 6 synchro because you special summon one level 2 tuner token if you tribute one monster on board. Fun fact, the token is called Phantom Glimmer token, so it doesn't count as a Blackwing. Keep that one in mind because one of the cards needs a Blackwing tuner. This one needs a Blackwing tuner, so you cannot go into that with this, just to keep in mind because that could technically come up. I decided to run one Assault Blackwing Kunai the Drizzle because this card has some applications. You can special summon it. It has more than 2,100 attacks, so you can technically special summon this with it as well. And also you can level modulate your synchros, which works very well with stuff like Vayu and some other cards. Plus you can special summon it from the deck with the effect of Zonda, so multiple different usages, if I might say, and you can get some other cards into the graveyard like Vayu if you normal summon it, then tribute it for the effect of this card, so it's also not too bad. This one, your main playmaker, it's normal summon itself, so maxi, screw this one. Well, later on maxi will be a bit more problematic, but not for this specific card. This one lets you able to search Black Whirlwind and gives you 2 searches with it because you get additional normal summon for this one and you don't even have to pay tribute for it, so very, very nice card. We have Zonda that helps you with 2 different things. If it's normal special summon, you can bounce one monster to the hand and you can banish this from the graveyard, and it does stuff, but it locks you into synchro monsters, so keep that one in mind. Doesn't really matter too much most of the time, but yeah, when you banish it from graveyard, you can special summon one level 5 or higher Blackwing monster from your hand or deck and then take damage equal to its attack. A lot of the time when you already have a Black Winged Dragon on board, then the damage doesn't matter because this one eats it up like it's breakfast. So that's quite nice, and yeah, with this one usually you want to be going into Assault Blackwing, but sometimes Simoon also works. For consistency, I decided to add Wing Requital because, well, the issue is if you don't start with a hand that does Black Whirlwind stuff or has some other forms of going into your extra deck monsters, then you're pretty screwed. But what you're not screwed at usually is getting 2 Winged Beast monsters on board, so this one would be a neat draw. Paying the life points also doesn't matter too much. The only issue with this card is you can only use it once per turn, but that's the same for any of the pot cards. So in the end, does it really matter too much? I don't think so. For a Pot of Greed, this card is still very nice for a budget card. We have Black Whirlwind, very, very nice card. Searches stuff on normal summon. It's not once per turn, by the way, just keep that one in hand. In mind. We have Black Feather Whirlwind, gets you stuff back from your graveyard and protects your monsters once per turn. If a dark monster you control would be destroyed by battle card effect, you can move one Black Feather counter from your field instead. This is because it works together with the Black Winged Assault Dragon, so there's that small, I want to say, combo, and I can special summon one monster from your banished zone or one of your graveyard monsters when you summon a dark synchro monster from the extra deck, so that's something to keep in mind as well. I decided to run double Icarus attacks, something you wouldn't usually run, but we kind of have to make this deck a bit more control-y because we're lacking some of the extra deck powerhouses. So this is a card that can deal with opponent's back row and it can deal with certain other things your opponent puts up. And because sometimes you will have some of the Blackwings on board that do absolutely nothing because you don't have a good synchro to go into anymore, and then this card could utilize this. For the last card, the last trap card, and one of the new ones, Twin Shadow, you can activate it from your hand if you control 2 or more Blackwing monsters. And with this one, you can synchro summon during your opponent's turn by using monsters that are banished or in your graveyard and shuffle them back into the deck or extra deck and special summon one Blackwing synchro monster or Blackwing dragon with the levels working out. So it's like a synchro summon, but use it during your opponent's turn, and you can use monsters from your banished zone and or graveyard, so very helpful. What you could be running instead is Blackbird Close if you want to, but I've tried it out and it didn't really work that way for me because you have to tribute. It makes it a lot worse, but the nice thing is you can get a Blackwing Dragon from extra deck, so it technically works because we do run this and we run it at 2. You could run it at 3 as well. It's not a terrible card, but I felt like it didn't do enough for me, but you can technically get away with running it if you really want to. For the extra deck, Assault, Blackwing, Sohaya, 2 of it, because there is an effect where you can send stuff to the graveyard. It's the hand trap, because if you use the effect, then you have to send 1 Blackwing Synchro Monster or Blackwinged Dragon from your extra deck to the graveyard, and then you can use the effect. And this card has an effect that during your main phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can banish 1 other Assault Blackwing Sohaya the Rainstorm from your graveyard and special summon this card. So you can use that one as well, and the card becomes a tuner when it's summoned using a Blackwing monster's material, so that can be helpful from time to time as well. I did include 1 Armed Wing, but that's one of the cards you can cut. You have better level 6s, and yeah, I mean, the piercing can technically win you the game like 1 time in 1,000 duels, so why not? It's not one of the ones that are very necessary. This one is one of the ones that comes in more handy. You can contemplate technically running 3 in this version because you don't have that much going on in the extra deck anyway. 2 I feel like is kind of the sweet spot because you kind of want to be able to go into it during your turn and sometimes also during opponent's turn with stuff like Twin Shadow, because when this is Synchro Summoned, you can send 1 Blackwing monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, this card's level becomes the same as that monster's, and it also does stuff when it destroys a monster by battle, but doesn't really come up that much. We have Blackwing Armor Master, very, very interesting card. Used to be okay-ish because it couldn't be destroyed by battle, and that was very, very strong back in the very first days when this card came out. Well, it wasn't strong, but it was on a playground setting, it was quite nice. But now it does very, very little. But sometimes the whole wedge counter thing can come up because you do run Blackwing Full Armor Master. That spreads more wedge counter, so I wanted to include this at 1. And Psyframe Lord Zeta, another good card you could be playing. That, yeah, you have to watch out when you lock yourself into dark monsters because this isn't dark. Other than that, it does some stuff sometimes. We also have Assault Blackwing Chidori, because this card can boost its attack points to a very, very, very big number. Also, this can be treated as a tuner, which technically could help you going into certain things, but since I don't think we run any level 3 monster that isn't a tuner by itself, it doesn't even get you into the level 10s. It can get you into a level 8 technically. I don't even think we run a level 1 monster. So the Synchro effect, tuner effect, doesn't really come up unless you use it with Kunai, because Kunai can't level modulate, so technically it is possible that it will help you at one point. This card's effect is mainly useless, but you need it for certain different combos, stuff like we have Vata and so on and so on and so on. You could run 3, but 2 is usually enough. Armor Master, very, very nice, unaffected by other card effects, and each time an opponent's monster activates its effect, place 1 wedge counter on that monster. So then you can take control of it during the next turn. During your end phase, you can pop the monsters with wedge counters. Very, very neat. It used to be a lot stronger. Right now it's a bit mid because 3000 attack isn't too crazy. You can kind of protect it a bit with the hand trap. Other than that, yeah. Technically, you could run other kind of battle traps and whatnots to protect this from battle and just sit on this card for eternity. Not really what you're trying to do though, but it was a playstyle at one point if I'm not mistaken. We have Blackwinged Assault Dragon. Sadly, this card is also a dragon, so sometimes this doesn't work with Icarus attack. Well, it never works with Icarus attack, but sometimes if you only end on this one at no winged beast, then you have a bit of an issue from time to time. Must be either Synchro Summoned, and now it comes in handy, 1 or Special Summoned from your extra deck by banishing 1 Tuner Synchro Monster and 1 Black-Winged Dragon from your face-up field and or graveyard. So that's quite good if you already have stuff in your graveyard. If you use this and had 1 Black-Winged Dragon up, then you can just banish them from your graveyard and go into this card as well. And this is the boss monster if you don't have this one, and even if you have it, this is still one part of the boss monster. I feel like the effect is a bit iffy. The better effect is that it damages your opponent by 700 each time they do stuff. Each time they activate a monster effect, which is not too bad. The other effect is if you have 4 or more black feather counters on it, then you can tribute this card and destroy all cards on the field. All cards, sadly, not just all of your opponent's cards. So yeah, I wish it was all your opponent's cards. In the end, it is what it is. Already talked about this card. It's a nice disruption, and you can fairly easily go into it. Cards to consider: Maxi, Nibiru, Ash Blossom. Obviously, hand traps do lots of things. Called by the Grave, because hand traps do lots of things to you too. Power of Prosperity, just for consistency. We have also a Low of Darkness for consistency if you want to. For the extra deck, stuff like Access Code Talker to finish games. Technically, you could play Appaloosa, but I don't think so. Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardish makes sense from time to time. AIP Masquerena can make sense. There are combos where you can go into King Kali Yuga with the Phantom Knight package, but that is a total different scenario. Obviously, you can run all of the other Blackwing cards. This one can be quite nice to clear up your opponent's board, but it's an ultra rare, so in comparison to the other Assault Blackwings, a bit crazy. But yeah, also Siphon Lord Omega, Burlord Savage Dragon, Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, because it's a Dark Synchro, so all of these two work really well in this deck, and you don't have a hard time going into level 8s, so there is that as well. And if you want to do something different for consistency, you could technically also use Popper Up in a budget build, because this card sends stuff to the graveyard, and you have lots of cards that actually do things in the graveyard, but you have to pay lots of life points, and since it's not even burn damage, even Black Winged Dragon doesn't help you with this one, so you can't mitigate that either. Technically you could be playing Swallow's Nest, but there's not really any good cards you can be summoning out with it. There's possibilities, but I felt like it was very inconsistent. It didn't actually get me into anything that was worthwhile. Technically you could go into things like Vata with lots of level 2s that you have, so that's something that I tried out but didn't work all that well for me. Hope you enjoyed the deck profile. Let's go to one of the replays and see what this deck does. Here we are for the replay section. Keep in mind please, I'm not a Blackwing player, nor am I really a combo deck player that much, and the deck is fairly new, so I tried to learn some combos beforehand, but yeah, I sometimes get a bit confused and I misplay a lot in this video, but this video is meant to show what you can do with the deck and what roundabout boards it ends on, show some of the weaknesses, some of the strengths. That is what this kind of replay is trying to do. If you want to see a bit more gameplay, there might be a series coming where I take this to ranked and take it into 10 consecutive duels. I'll see if I'll do it with the budget decks or with structured decks actually, because I'll always do it with budget decks on my channel. But this time, let's just dive right in. I thought let's start with Black Whirlwind. Possibly would have been a better thing to use this effect and Surge, just mainly for the Ash Blossom, so I don't want this to be Ash Blossom. I wouldn't mind too much if this gets Ash Blossomed in the end, because if I now normal summon this and they Ash this, then I have no plays left, and I just have to, well, concede basically, so I should have probably done it the other way around. They use Max C here. Unfortunate, we are kind of screwed because we do some special summon a lot, so I just keep going. I send Zephyros here and some other shenanigans go into this card. From that point onwards, we use the effect of this one, because I sent to the graveyard with the effect of this one Zephyros, because now I can technically extend at one point, and this one because I can add this one back to the hand because we special summoned a Dark Synchro monster, so I use the effect of this one, and with that I can get that back to the hand. So we have one disruption during our opponent's turn already, because I kind of have to keep the combos short as possible because they have used Maxi and I don't want to give them too many resources, I want to say. So yeah, keeping that in mind, but we have to still special summon quite a bit. With this one I go into Full Armor Master, because we could not have gone into the other one here, because this one requires you to have one Tuner Synchro Monster or some of these crazy conditions, which I didn't have either. I could have gone into the level 6 Synchro though, and then send some stuff to the graveyard, the Disruption for example, or some other stuff, and then possibly gotten rid of that one, and with that one banish this and the Black Winged Dragon that I have in the graveyard, and then we would have had access to this card as well, just to keep that in mind. We have this card live now because we control 2 or more Blackwing monsters. Could use it during my turn now, but obviously they have Maxi, so I'd rather keep it during the opponent's turn. In the end, I'm never sure if I should set this or keep it in hand, because if they have a Kaiju and I only end my turn with 2 Blackwings, then this card is still dead. But if I set it, then I can still use it during the opponent's turn, but so I'm not quite 100% sure. I probably should have set it in the end. Let's see what continues. They are playing the new Goatee. Very, very nice. Shows off a different deck here as well, so I like that one. And they target this. If this leaves the field, it gets banished. Yeah, interesting, but it doesn't really matter too much. Now I can steal this one because it activated its effect, and I got a wedge counter, so I got to show off this. In the end phase, which we are in now, I could have chosen to destroy this. Maybe it would have been better, because I do make a tiny mistake-ish, because I leave it on board and then the zones get very, very full. See, we haven't done anything with this now, but that's mainly due to Nibiru Maxi. Technically, there would have been some plays I could have done differently, and I also could have used Twin Shadow during this turn, so I could have gone into a bit deeper plays here, but I decided to leave it at that so we don't give them too many cards, because now they are like at 7 cards on board and on hand, so that is fairly okay. It's like 1 card more, and they have still some plays. I think this will do some stuff now as well, so yeah, there's that. didn't give them too much of an advantage, but in the end it might be enough. At this point I decided to get my Disruption live already, because we can use this to go into the level 6 tuner, and with the level 6 tuner we can send stuff to the graveyard, and we can also summon a monster back. I shouldn't have summoned the monster back because now the zones are full, and I wanted to technically keep one so I could use the effect of this card to steal possibly one of the opponent's monsters. At this point didn't, was a bit bad here. I sent to the graveyard the card that gives us a pop during the opponent's turn, so that's, well, at any point as a quick effect, so that is not too bad. I wasn't sure what to do with this here. I have the Disruption, so I thought maybe disrupt this, because banishing one card from the deck sounds quite strong, because that's how they get their play started with all the banishment. So I went for it here. Didn't really matter because they had Called by the Grave. I've never played against this deck in my life before, so I had only, well, a slight idea of what they did because I was reading the cards for making the deck profile at one point, but I haven't played them yet, so I don't really know what they're up to. I thought maybe disrupting this was good, but in the end it didn't matter. Sadly, this is one of our disruptions gone. Then we have the shards, and now they end the turn, and at this point I wasn't sure what to do because I still have the pop, and I thought, do I get rid of this? Do I get rid of this? I decided I think I got rid of the wrong one, because they still have the banished cards, and you always have to keep an eye on their banished stuff because that returns during my turn then, and then they can synchro summon during my turn. I'm not a big fan of this, but it does what it does, so keeping that in mind. So I used the pop on the tuner, and that was absolutely the worst thing I could have done. I should have gone either rid of this one or just kept it during the opponent's turn, so they couldn't have easily gone into something. Once they chained the stuff to synchro summon, I could have just chained this and destroyed one of the tuners, and then I would have been fine, or the big one, and would have ended the duel on a better note than this. But they still had 2 trap cards, so that might have been some of the stuff that summons from deck, and then we would have been in the same situation. So now they get 2 of their monsters back. You can see a bit annoying here. I could have used the effect if I didn't have my zones clogged to steal this one, but then I think they could have just chained that and also already gone into the synchro summon, so it wouldn't have made a massive difference. But yeah, once they have these counters, you can yoink them with Blackwing Full Armor Master, so this is also something to keep in mind. I thought I would go into this one because I didn't realize that goatees can use multiple tuners as well for their monster, for the level 10 monster, which makes sense considering the deck, but I thought they had to like climb, go into the 8-1 and then flip over the 8-1, then I can't go into 10-1 was what I was thinking there, but they can just use them and instantly go into that, so it's a bit annoying. And they do this here, they get rid of most of my stuff, they get rid of some of their stuff as well, but it doesn't really matter because they play off of being banished, and that causes loads of issues. Obviously our Armor Master survives because unaffected by the cards effects, very, very neat. And we still have some cards in hand that sadly don't do anything. Simoon would have been able to do some stuff if we didn't control this card, funny enough, because then we wouldn't control any cards and we could have used the effect. Like this, we could not, and they gain more resources that we cannot really keep up with, sadly. The resource gain of Blackwings in the crackback turn isn't amazing. It's not terrible, but it's also not super amazing, and now they get all of their stuff back. And at this point, there's not all that much we can be doing as soon as they get a monster that has 3000 or more attack, and that is what they do. So they get rid of this one, and technically now I can be using some of the combos. Doesn't really matter anyway because they can go into all kinds of stuff. They have this, which is quite fun, quite a fun idea to put in here. Not that crazy because it's a water deck, but you know, I draw into Bora. Not sure if it helps us much because you can already see what happens here. They get so many resources. Banish this to get this one out, get Black Whirlwind, hopefully do stuff. They Ash Blossom this, and at this point I think I could have normal summoned Bora. I'm not sure if it would have been negated then again because Ash Blossom just negates the effect, so technically this should have been able to do it again if I'm not mistaken, but ruling wise I think I had it one time where that didn't work, not with Black Whirlwind, with a different card. But yeah, that's special summoned it, but at this point it didn't really matter because they have the whole massive combo again. They can go into their level 10 again because they play 2 of it, and there goes our board once more. And at this point there was nothing we could have done about it. You can see it possibly could have changed the outcome of the duel. The deck does put up some board that's a bit interesting. We had to play through Maxi as well, so not the full potential of the deck, but nearly full enough. So yeah, didn't change that much, but yeah, against that there wasn't all that much that we could have done differently here. Talked a bit about what of different paths you could have taken. In the end, I don't think it would have mattered all that much because they had all the answers to our plays. Hope you enjoyed the deck profile though. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, but most importantly, I hope you have a nice day.